Voidborn Mythology by Axel Hellstrand.
Episode 7.
The Temple.
Two days ago was day of sorrow and grief. I could hardly sleep this night. Only thing I did was to reflect on my mistakes. I couldn't save Bird, even how hard I tried. I could not stand these nightmares anymore. I woke up early morning, and the sky was blood red, and the son of Baruch rose high up in the sky. I was up before other companions, and I decided to make some breakfast in an organic cauldron that I had created 2 days ago. I decided to make seagrass stew, my favorite dish. Even when stew was finished, there was still none that had woken up. I decided to check on little cub, since he was not like himself for a while. Nert rolled around in his sleeping bag and screamed how it wasn't his fault.
No, it's not my fault. That's not my bloody fault.
I walked closer to him, and then he suddenly had awakened. What happened, little cub? Huh? What happened,
It's
little...
nothing. I just had a bad dream. Well, time to get moving. For each minute we're wasting, another life may be lost. River, wake up the Fiskmas.
Yes, Nert. I walked towards Bird's non-organic tent. I opened it carefully, and to my surprise, Bird had already woken up, but just lied on his sleeping bag and just blankly stared at the ceiling. I walked closer to Bird and said, "You must wake up, Bird."
Okay, River. I'll be dressed. Yeah, just give me some time.
As Bird said so, I walked out of his tent and began packing my belongings. I poured my stew in 3 wooden bowls before beginning to shrink my cauldron with my mind so it could fit my backpack. And the same I did for my tent. I was fully packed and enjoyed my stew with pleasure. Meanwhile, Nert stared at stew with contempt. Bird was still not finished and not even walked out of his tent. I was worried and walked inside his non-organic tent. He still lied in same way like before, and he had not moved 1 inch. Was you not supposed to be dressed and ready?
Huh? Oh, right.
Bird crawled very slowly out of his sleeping bag. He slowly took off his bedclothes and were about to put on his tactical gear. But during all of it, he moved as slowly and lifelessly as an undead. No sign of emotion, only emptiness. Nert stood outside the tent and began to bark.
What is taking so bloody long time?
I usually would forget how enormous Nert and the other Banthans were. Nert was my friend, after all, but if he wasn't, he would be a creature of my nightmares. Bird is still very sad. It is hard to recover from. As I said so, I saw a glaring issue. Near's knee was still damaged, and he was still limping. It was time to talk some sense into little cub. What in the name of Ymer himself are you thinking?
What is it?
You can fight monster with still bad knee. I have to heal you.
I refuse. I will not waste a whole day to recover. There are lives on the line.
In this state you'll stand no chance, and Child of Sun God will kill you this time. I will give you different medicine. Downside will be less severe.
Oh. And what will be the downside this time?
Not too bad it will be. Might lose all taste, and feel some great pain in stomach. But healing will only take 2 hours.
Fine.
I pulled out tiny organic cauldron from my backpack and increased its size thanks to my powers of water and blood. I poured some water from nearest lake into cauldron. My trusty cauldron, who I had named Telltale, began to boil the water. I put 5 pieces of jade leaf and the 3 pieces of bulging scrubs. After a short time of boiling, the medicine was done. I used my mind to lift the medicine off the cauldron and began to bring it towards Near's mouth. Near looked at the green liquid with disgust, but after a big sigh, he decided to open his jaws. Green liquid slammed into his jaws. Near closed his jaws quickly, and it looked like he was about to puke. Medicine was inside of Neert, and it was only about time before Neert was healed. My focus instead shifted towards Bird, who sat on a stump all alone and far from us. I walked towards and sat on the stump that was next to him. Hello, Bird. How do you feel?
Hey, River. I'm afraid that I don't feel so good.
I'm sorry, Bird.
You don't have to feel bad about it, River. You did everything you could do. It was beyond saving.
Understand pain and sorrow more than most. I'll be there for you. What was your name? I am very bad with names.
More.
What nice name. Losing family members, our greatest of sorrows. Was Singlemere your dear brother or cousin?
He wasn't my brother.
But I saw such strong love for each other. That love only comes from family members, and not mere friends.
Well, I risk
So, I am here for you. What tried you to tell me?
I loved him. Oh, it's so embarrassing.
Why is it embarrassing?
Being a male lover is the last thing you want to be if you want to be respected sea hunter, or anything else for that matter.
Don't listen to stupid birds more. I was once from tribe, where we loved individuals, not of their gender, but of character. Your choice of love makes you not a worse person. You are good and strong hunter.
How would you know that? Save me when I was so stupidly stung by a bloodsucker. By the gods, I was so embarrassing.
Even if you didn't see me, I still heard a story told by your lover. I may not like killing or death, but I was still very impressed by your deed.
You think so?
Of course I do.
Well, thank you.
Could you tell me more of Singlimir?
He was one of the most bravest and talented fishermen that I will ever know. But I will never live up to his standards.
Nonsense, Boar. He probably tells stories of your great deed in afterlife for other spirits. He's probably proud of you, and you should be ashamed.
Oh, thanks, River. I hardly know you, but you're such caring, person. There is something I want to give you, River.
Moore held out a organic necklace that was formed from purple flesh, and center of necklace was golden eye. The necklace reminded me of a bygone time that would be forever lost. I carefully grabbed the necklace from Moore's hand, and a salty tear from my only functional eye fell on the necklace.
Are you alright, River?
Thank you, my new friend, for treasured gift. I gave Moore a loving hug. My moist skin was now in contact with warm and fuzzy body of Moore. My new friend had given me a treasured gift, and it was time to do same. I walked over to my organic bag and pulled out my wooden goblet. This object was not created by Oceanborn, but of Skyborn. It only made sense that Moore should have this goblet. I have something for you too. I have a wooden goblet that I carried for many years.
Thanks. Wait. That's my family emblem enlisted upon the goblet. Where did you find it?
I didn't have strength to tell him the truth. It would be too much for him to handle. I also wouldn't want to bring up horrid memory. I stood there and had to come up with false truth. Abandoned at the swamps. Moore nodded and gave me a warm hug in return.
I have been so wrong of your kind. I thought so little of your species. I'm so sorry, Ripper, that I ever called you slime skin.
It is fine, Moore. I'm just glad that I find new friend. 2 hours flew by faster than Cassine herself, and Neert by this point was already healed. Neert stood before us.
It's time for us to leave. I don't want to waste any further time. Am I bloody understood?
It was nothing else to do than to follow. Neert was, after all, leader of this hunt. We began to trek through Chantilly, also known as Fiskmarsheim. We walked for hours with no food and no rest. We suddenly stopped in our search, after Neert had witnessed something. In far distance of forest was a huge puff of smoke, as black as earth itself. We followed the smoke, and we arrived at a small wooden cabin that was consumed by fire.
Everyone, search for survivors.
I searched for any sign of life. I searched through dark forest that was nearby the cabin. After a while, I did find something, and it was charred remains of little and big bird. I was so shocked that I gasped, and Near's gaze turned to me.
Did you find anyone?
No, only find the remains.
By the gods!
Neart became furious and began to rip apart the bird remains of the cabin. He acted no longer like guardian, more like monster. When he was done with cabin, he turned around, and his once purple eyes was now red.
I knew it. We must act quickly before anyone else shares their fate.
I feel great sorrow that someone had to die. But think of poor souls.
Their souls?
Well, you're a guardian, aren't you? Well, isn't your job to take care of the souls?
Some other guardians will take care of them.
But Neart,
Don't you say anything. It was because of you that I was delayed. If I had left earlier, I could have saved them from the monster. Now, it's time to proceed, River.
as we were leaving the cabin, I found blooded arrows on the charred ground. Neart. The man completely ignored me and wouldn't even turn around. I had to get his attention by other means. Neart! Neart! I found trails to creature. Neart stopped in his tracks and swiftly turned around. He walked on all four towards me. When he was in front of me, he ripped away the arrows from my smooth hands. He began to smell at arrows, and an evil smile lit up.
So sloppy of him. This will surely be his downfall. This way!
For what felt like the entire week, we would search for the Fireborn. We hardly ate or rested. Me and Moore was exhausted every day and could hardly stand. Same could not be said for Neart, who ate and slept, rage and vengeance. For every day, Neart's fur became more unkempt. For every day, his clothes became more worn and dirty. For every day, Neart's eyes slowly turned red. We all suffered greatly and through long trek. But Moore suffered more than anyone. He was exhausted that he could barely speak. He was so tired that he could not fly and instead walked to slow and wobbly steps at the ground. And this made Neart even more mad than he already was. It was, I think, was 7th day when Moore's breaking point occurred. He fell on the ground and began to violently cough. Neart had noticed this and was now as mad as Baruch himself.
Get up, Runt! Get up!
Please, Neart, don't be so cruel to young one. He ignored me once again.
Get up, or I will. Huh?
Neart began to sniff and turned his fuzzy head to its source. At the muddy road, in the far distance, walked a bird who was so old that he made me feel young. He walked with his cane stilted and slowly. He was dressed in baggy leaf clothes that covered his almost featherless body, except for some feathers on his head. Nert ran towards the Old One. But stopped when he stood in front of him.
You there?
Me? You speak of me?
Who else? Have you seen the Crimson Beast on the island?
Seen? I have not seen the light of day.
Stop playing tricks with me!
Manfred grabbed the Old One and held him 8 feet from the ground. Nert, drop!
It is true. My sight have been taken from me since I hatched from my egg. I have never been able to see the world that the Great Five have created.
Do you know of any monster?
In the temple of the Manfans, great roars are heard. Roars of some evil fire spirit.
Temple of the Manfans? That name. How long does it take to travel there? Tell me!
7 hours of wandering it takes.
Alright, time to go, boys.
Before you go, I must warn you. If you and the life and the temple of the Manfans, your life will be forever cursed.
Nert threw the Old One at the side of the road. I walked to the Old One to see if he was okay, but I was careful not to stand too close to the Old One. I was afraid that he would know that I was also born. Are you alright, fellow bird?
I've been through worse during my many winters.
I'm sorry for my friend.
You must keep an eye on your friend of yours. I sense something terrible is growing within him.
The warnings of Old One consumed my head and was all that I could think of during 7-hour trek. Afternoon turned to night, and Umer must have been sad, since it began to rain down at us. After 7 hours of being rained upon, we find a short temple of Manfans in far distance. Temple was bigger than entire villages and was crafted from orange stone. Temple had pointy grand form, and there stood 2 7-meter big statues outside of temple which resembled Manfans. My father had told me that this temple was created by Sekai, king of the underworld, and was a gift for Manfans, who began to travel here. Once great temple was now huge ruin, and was covered by moss and vines. I don't know why temple was ignored. It was probably something Nert knew. But I not wanna ask him, since he was filled with terrible rage. We slowly and carefully entered temple, and I almost slipped on wet stone stairs. We walked through the entrance, and it was as quiet as the afterlife. Only thing that could be heard was breaths and the thunder outside. Temple was filled with dust, and there was webs from spider monkeys all over temple. On the ground lied handles, pebbles, and empty holsters, and there was no blade to be seen. Near began to sniff and search for monster. As that happened, Moore fell once more to the ground and violently began to cough. I ran towards Moore and touched his head, which burned more than my cauldron. I dragged Moore to nearest room where he could rest. Neert probably heard that we stopped and walked inside room where Moore rested.
What are you doing? Keep moving!
He can't. Are you blind as mole scarab? Moore is sick and he needs rest.
It's just a bloody cold. I've been through worst. I got my head smashed in. I almost destroyed my knee. I didn't complain. I proceeded with my task. Moore must do the same or else.
Moore and you are not same. People are not alike.
And that's the reason why we haven't slain the beast yet. I'm surrounded with weaklings that can't handle a simple cold. I am better off killing the monster myself. You two are worthless.
He walked out of room and turned his back at us. I had enough of this, and it was time to talk some sense into Neert. I followed him out of room and uttered, "What got into you? You were once caring and good guardian, but now you are cruel bastard."
Cruel? Cruel? My task as a guardian is to protect this island at all costs. I'm trying to save it.
You treat allies and others like dirt. Your mind is poisoned and consumed by vengeance. If you continue to follow the river of revenge, you'll be bad as monster. He turned hastily around. He was fuming with rage, and was almost a nightmare to see him this angry. He retracted his claws and began to roar like some savage beast. His eyes was blood red and slowly moved closer to me. I had never felt this small and defenseless before.
How dare you, you pathetic worm!
Ned, please, please. No, Ned, please, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Oh, Ned, please stop. No. Suddenly, a pained scream echoed through the entire temple, and the scream was so terrible, you almost felt the pain. The once dark room which Moore rested in had now turned to glowing orange, and the entire room was consumed by flame. We both stood on odd angles from room, so we could not see Moore. I did not need to see Moore to realize that Moore was dead. My new friend had become other victim of monster. Moore was first bird to show that they had soul and heart. The once blood-red eyes of Nerd turned back to amethyst, and a single tear ran down his fuzzy head.
To be continued.